Hey, shalom, everyone, and welcome to the Middle East and beyond. I'm Barry Stagner, coming to you from the June gloom in California, and here, as always, with my brother, Amirs coming to you from the Galilee. Amir, shalom.
Shalom, Pastor Barry. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Good to see you this morning, or I guess this evening for you. And we've got a lot to talk about today.
Sure we do. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's actually still happening. The president of the United States is on my time right now. He's in Europe, so I get to hear from him probably starting from 8 a.m. my time. So all throughout the day, I got to hear from him stuff that he said, remarks, and so it's normally when he's in DC, it's only about 3 p.m. when we start hearing from him. He just wake up and then you start hearing stuff. In the last couple of days, it's actually the whole day over here. So that's it.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, and Amir, we're hearing a lot of different viewpoints on this memorandum of understanding, and lots of people coming at it from different directions. And the possibility, some say that this is just kind of a misdirect, to draw attention away. But there's some components of it that are unique and distinct from the last time we saw Bibi and Trump kind of misdirect the Iranians. And there's a more serious component to this than previously, and it kind of dismisses the idea that this is just talk. Maybe you can talk about that for a minute, and why this is a little more troubling than the previous go-around.
Yeah, it's much more troubling than anything we've seen before, to the point that the Obama deal actually looks even better. That's how bad it is. But let me explain why we don't believe this is a distraction or some sort of a game to just buy some time. Look, before, whether it was June of last year or late February of this year, there were negotiations, and the president kind of hinted that there might be an agreement around the corner, and that was, of course, the deception. The oil prices went down, and then when the time came in June of last year, Israel struck, and in February of this year, America and Israel struck. The difference between those times and now is huge. First of all, now America has signed a memorandum of understanding. It's not just negotiations. It has signed a binding, so to speak, agreement. The second thing, which is even more, I guess, troubling, is that this time, the closest ally of America in the war against Iran is being thrown under the bus. We're not even given access to this memorandum of understanding. I mean, come on. The Prime Minister of Canada said he has a copy of it. The Pakistanis have it. The Qataris have it. The Egyptians have it. The Saudis have it. The Iranians have it. But Israel is not allowed to have it. If that's not enough, Israel is being blamed for using excessive power in Lebanon, for not doing a good job in Lebanon, and maybe someone else needs to do it. Israel is literally being thrown under the bus. And this is very serious, Pastor Barry, because it's our life that is on the line here. It's an enemy that has thousands of rockets and drones that started a war against us. We didn't start. And continues to shoot at Israeli civilian communities along the border. And we're expected to now withdraw from the area that we took in order to create a buffer zone. And we're expected to be less aggressive, as if you can be less aggressive with terrorists, and we're expected to halt and stop the fire for, I don't know, 60 days or more. Look, it's insane. There's an enemy around the corner that wants to destroy us, vows to destroy us. It's an arm of the IRGC. And I thought that one of the targets of the war of America is to dismantle the proxy project of Iran. And what you do when you add Lebanon to the equation, you actually create a dependency of IRGC and proxies. You're actually nourishing it. You're actually encouraging it. Instead of telling the IRGC, excuse me, we're now talking about Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. We're now talking about war with you. The war between Israel and Lebanon is because Hisbollah is fighting them. And that's between the two of them. You have, even the government of Lebanon is okay with us fighting against Hisbollah because they aren't able. And the government of Lebanon said that they don't want Iran to interfere and intervene in any of the affairs in Lebanon. So all of that just to say that, as you alluded in the beginning, this time is different. It's not some game. It's not a way to distract the enemy. It's very different. It's very disheartening. It's very troubling. And I think it endangers the Middle East more than bringing any peace and stability. And, you can try to bury your head in the sand, but the problem will still be around, and the enemy is still going to be around. And so that's as for your question, Pastor Barry.
Yeah, it's interesting, Amir. This is one of the most bizarre parts about some of the actions of late, but especially I think now with this memorandum. To me, I was picturing in my mind, what if Canada and Mexico reached an agreement and told the world that America is no longer going to enrich uranium or defend itself against any nation that wants to. It's just bizarre. You've got one sovereign state telling another sovereign state what it is they can and cannot do, and it just makes no sense whatsoever. Some of these tactics have been beyond bizarre, and there's a lot of things regarding this memorandum, I think, there's some good supposedly, and there's some bad, and there's some that are just downright unclear as to what the possibility is going to be. And, the U.S. does not have the right, nor does the international community, to tell Israel to not defend itself against other nations.
Yeah.
And, there's been some actions on the part of the U.S. Regarding Israel's interactions with Hezbollah. Maybe we can talk about what happened regarding Beirut a little bit.
So, as I said, Israel may have not gotten any access to the MOU, but everybody else did. And Bloomberg released this morning the full text of the memorandum. And in fact, it's even worse than the Obama deal, as I said. It makes you wonder whether someone who wrote The Art of the Deal ever bothered to read it. And I'm talking about the president.
Read his own book.
Yeah. According to the memorandum published by Bloomberg, Iran gave only two things. It agreed to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, and it also issued a declaration, yes, only a declaration, that it will never produce nuclear weapons. But the United States, meanwhile, gave away everything else. A commitment to remove all sanctions on Iran, the lifting of the blockade, the establishment of a $300 billion rehabilitation fund for Iran, an end to the war in Lebanon, including commitments made on Israel's behalf, as you just alluded earlier, without even asking us, immediate exemption for Iranian oil export, the release of frozen funds, these are dozens of billions of dollars, approval through the UN Security Council, a commitment to remove all sanctions on Iran, lifting the blockade, the establishment of that we read it already, And we all know that the value of Iran's declaration regarding nuclear weapon. In fact, the regime has been making this same public claim for years, so there's really nothing new here. In other words, Iran's only tangible concession was reopening the Strait of Hormuz, effectively proving that its newest strategic weapon works remarkably well. And reading this memorandum, one gets the impression that Iran drafted the agreement and simply handed it to the Americans for a signature. The United States surrendered completely. And look, Pastor Barry, some people will say, Amir, you don't know exactly all the information. You know what? Do you know? And I'm asking you, how come the Pakistanis know, and the Qataris know, and the Iranians know, and the Saudis know, and yet the Americans or the Israelis don't? And when the vice president was asked about it in his media tour, I don't know if you noticed that, but there's no Rubio, and there's no Hexet, and there's no nothing. There is just vice president. Why? Because he's the one who is pushing for it. And everywhere he said, when they asked him, so why don't you release it? He said, well, the Pakistanis and the Iranians and the Qataris asked us not to. There are some sensitivities that we need to respect in the Arab world. Does it sound to you America first when you put the Arab sensitivities over your allies and your own people? And so that's as for that. The UN-Iran deal, you know what I did with my team this morning here, and we also shared it with you. We analyzed the good, the bad, and the unknown. I wanted to say good, bad, and ugly, but it's actually unknown. So let's start with the first one, okay? The first one, Lebanon and Hisbollah. The good thing is, as of now, Israel will not withdraw from Lebanon. Hezbollah is still, as long as Hezbollah is not disarmed, okay? That's at least what we're saying. The bad thing is that Israel's attacks on Hezbollah in Beirut was blocked. We're no longer allowed to do that. And the unknown is who is going to disarm and finish the job, disarm Hezbollah and finish the job. If we cannot touch them, then who is going to do that? And by the way, the UN repeatedly passed resolutions that Hezbollah must be disarmed. So who's going to do that? Second thing that we have is Iran's the nuclear program. The good thing is we have a commitment to deal with the enriched uranium, just a commitment. But you know what? The bad thing is that Iran will be allowed to continue enriching uranium, which is, you and I know, it's the worst thing ever, because as long as you give them a chance to enrich, they'll always hide and enrich more than they need to. And the unknown is who will monitor, control, and enforce the enrichment limits. All of that, it's just not. And honestly, I will tell you, Pastor Barry, the IRGC will never give up the right for a nuclear weapon. I'm telling you that. I've been saying that forever.
Right.
That's why I don't think even the U.S. intelligence just released the information, and the president wouldn't listen to them. Another one is Iran's rockets. One of the goals of the war is to take care of the ballistic missile program and limit them in distance. Well, Iran's capabilities to produce missiles were set back because of the war. That's the good thing. But the bad thing is that money is now going to be flowing into Iran, and they will quickly restore all of their abilities. And the unknown is, it's not even mentioned in the Memorandum of Understanding. It's not even a topic that they deal with. How do you do such a thing? I don't understand. This is one of the main reasons this war actually started. It's beyond me. Another one is the Strait of Hormuz. An international waterway that was open to everybody. Nobody controlled it. And now The Strait of Hormuz, yes, will be open, but it will cost money. They claim it will be insurance. They are going to allow the Iranians and the Omanis to have some sort of a consortium where they will charge something. And the question is, will that be sustainable? Or is that going to be, I mean, what are you doing? It's worse than before. Another topic is, of course, frozen assets and recovery funds. Well, there's nothing good in this one because they're going to unfreeze assets and they're going to have hundreds of billions of recovery funds. And I think they're going to have even more than that. They just don't tell us. We know that the Qataris were paying off, the Saudis were paying off money so the Iranians will not attack their energy sector. So they're getting billions upon billions upon billions. And why would we pay the money to rehabilitate a country under the same regime? Makes no sense.
Yeah.
That's why, a lot of people, especially Iranians or pro-Iranian people, were making this type of memes online. Obama gave them only 1.7 billion. Look at how much Trump is now allowing them access to. This is crazy. That's one more thing. Another thing that we want to talk about is the Iranian proxies. The good thing is that Israel is not going to withdraw from Lebanon, so it's not going to happen. The bad thing is that the UN resolution to disarm Hisbollah is ignored and leaving Iran free to continue funding its proxies. And the unknown is, will Iran be forced to stop arming, training, and supporting its proxies in Iraq, Yemen, and Lebanon? And we all know that this is not something that they agreed upon in the Memorandum of Understanding. So, again, Pastor Barry, most of the targets of the war are not going to be met. In fact, all of them, if you ask me. In fact, we are going back. In fact, it's even worse than before the war. The only thing that is kind of better is the fact that we sent them a little back with the ability to get to the bomb and with the ballistic missiles. But once you give them time and money, they'll restore it. They'll restore it. And the whole idea was not to. The whole idea was to never allow them to do that again. It's a missed opportunity. It's very sad.
Yeah, it is. And Amir, it's kind of interesting that early on when we were hearing of a deal that was being formulated, one of the demands of the deal was that the 440 kilograms of uranium that's been enriched to 60% be turned over to the U.S. or at least shipped out of Iran. And now we're hearing about procedures like a reverse concentration and just adding raw uranium into the enriched uranium. And I think one of the things that we need to recognize is that Iran has continually threatened to destroy the United States, the great Satan, and Israel as well, the little Satan. And their whole motivation, at least the regime, is to do so through a nuclear device. And when you consider the process where you've got uranium in its natural state has two isotopes. It has U-238 and U-235. U-235 is the fissile material, and it is 0.07% of the concentration. 99.3% is U-238, which cannot be made into a nuclear weapon. So they take the raw uranium, they grind it into what's called yellow cake, and then they add hexafluoride, and it turns it into a gas, and then it can be fed into a centrifuge. And the centrifuge process takes hundreds and hundreds of cycles in order to get it to a concentration of 60%. And that's all the heavy lifting. And then it's just a matter of weeks to go from 60 to 90%. And yet here you're talking about a very expensive process of reverse concentrating, this enriched uranium. That's never going to happen. The Iranians are not going to spend the money.
And even to... Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it just makes no sense whatsoever.
As long as you leave uranium and centrifuges, all it takes is for them to hide and spin them as fast as they can. By the way, 20% enriched uranium is already 90% of the job. The people don't know that.
Exactly.
So what I'm saying, if you leave in their hands, forget about the 440 kilograms of 60%. They have hundreds of kilograms of 20%. What about them?
Right.
Because that's already 90% of the job to reach. So I'm saying, but you know what? That's not only the thing that worries me a lot. What worries me is that there is the Qatari influence that we see that is super bizarre, and also, all of those Jew haters say that Israel controls America, Israel is controlling Trump, and all of that baloney. Look, Trump is sitting there right now in Europe in the G7 summit, and he's cutting a whole deal for $1 trillion investment by Qatar. And why do they do that? Because they know exactly that that's how they can buy him. And that's how they can get from him complete capitulation when it comes to Iran. They want to keep the IRGC there because they need, not only that, remember the Qatari-owned plane that they gave President Trump. That's it, look, it's already painted in the new colors. It's already rolling on the runway in New York, by the way, ready for him. And but it's not even the next Air Force One. It's an interim Air Force One that he'll be using until the next one is ready. It's Qatari airplane that the U.S. president is about to use. Unheard of. And it's interesting because the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding in Switzerland, guess where it's going to happen? It's going to be in Switzerland in what we called the Bergenstock Resort. And a quick search of who owns the Bergenstock Resort, not far from Lucerne, Lake Lucerne, it's of course the Qataris. They own this hotel. And so they give you money to your economy. They give you presidential plane. They control the narrative. In fact, as I said before, I believe it's Qatar and Iran. And by the way, the Qataris were in Tehran just a couple of weeks ago, and they helped them draft this MOU. And they gave it to the president, and they said, President, this is it. And it just breaks my heart for the Iranian people, because look, the Iranian people, look at what they're posting. They're posting this type of clips of what the president promised them, and obviously never, ever delivered. It breaks my heart that 40,000 people were slaughtered. And the president was asked today, what about the killing? And he said, oh, it was done by 2 regimes ago. 2 regimes ago. He really truly think that we're that stupid that Mujtaba is a brand new regime. That's the son of Khamenei. And if that's not enough, anyone that utterly speaks against this is now being threatened. I mean, take a look. Take a look at what this publication is saying about that. There's 4 people that are speaking against it, and I'm telling you, they are unleashing all the bad elements to attack them right now. The first one, as you can clearly see, is Hegseth. I'll show you. Actually, can we put what the secretary said versus what the president said? Take a look at that. The secretary on June 14 said the following thing. Let's place. Okay, let's go to Hegseth, please. Go to Hegseth. Put it. Let's see what Trump said versus what Hegseth said.
I didn't like that he did an attack based on there's a very minor
drone
thing with some drones that were released, and he ends up
explosive drone, minor.
Attack. I saw where that bomb went. Did you see what happened? That was a vicious. That was too much. You can do too much also. Now, I'm not happy with the way Israel has handled themselves with
Naruc Kadima.
and with Hezbollah.
Like Heg said.
They should have been able to.
So
do
watch,
the job.
watch now what Heg said.
Israel's fighting Hezbollah too long.
Watch what Heg said. A couple days earlier on the same attack, about the same attack.
Being killed.
Watch what he said. No?
Doing it.
Obviously, we're attuned to what's happening with Hezbollah firing rockets into northern Israel, which they need to stop doing, and Iran needs to encourage them to stop doing that in very adamant ways. And Israel was very measured in its response, understanding that a deal we're on the verge of a deal.
Israel was very measured in its response. That's what the secretary is saying. And look what the president is saying. Two opposites. Another amazing thing, take a look at what the president said and what his own ambassador to Israel said.
Without us, without the United States, there would be no Israel. Without me, there would be no Israel, because no other president was willing to do what I did.
Israel, but it is also my job to represent the importance of Israel to the United States. This is just another reminder that it is your heritage, without a doubt. But, Minister, it is also the heritage of the United States. Without Israel, without the Jewish foundation, there would not be an America. We owe our very existence to what happened in this land.
Yeah. And you know, by the way, George Washington said the same thing, by the way. But let's look at Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham.
Rebuilding Iran with the people in charge today, a bit problematic for me. You know, the Marshall Plan, we rebuilt Germany, but the Nazis were no longer in charge. So we'll see where this goes. But the deal assumes they'll change their behavior. Maybe they will. If they do, fine. If they don't, I don't think we've lost a lot as long as we don't overly reward them. So to get this investment fund, I think they have to fundamentally change who they are and how they behave. Maybe they'll do that, maybe they won't. Count me in the skeptical column.
What do you say to Republicans like Senator Lindsey Graham, who is skeptical of the MOU?
Lindsey is skeptical?
Yes.
I'll have to talk to Lindsey. He'll be in big trouble.
There you go. He'll be in big trouble. You say something, you're off the... And let's see what the president himself said. February 28th.
Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. Now, you talk about regime change. I never cared about regime change. It's never a part. And we're dealing with people that I think are very rational people. And they were nice to deal with. They were strong people, smart people. I think actually they're smarter than the first and second group. But they're not radicalized, and they're, looking to help their country.
What can you say, Pastor Barry? And the last one is, Marco Rubio. You won't see him being interviewed in the last few days, and you wonder why. It's because that's what he thinks. This is what he said a few years ago, and he's shocked to see what's going on right now. Take a look at this.
I do want to be recorded for history's purposes before I know what was going to happen in regards to this if it goes through. Iran will immediately use the money that it's receiving in sanctions relief to begin to build up its conventional capabilities. It will establish the most dominant military power in the region outside of the United States, and it will raise the price of us operating in the region. They're going to build anti-access capabilities, rockets capable of destroying our aircraft carriers and ships, continue to build these swift boats that are able to come on us, these fast boats that are able to swarm our naval assets. And they'll make it harder and harder for U.S. troops to be in the region. They'll also work with other terrorist groups in the region to target American servicemen and women. And they may or may not deny that they're involved, but they will target us and raise the price of our presence in the Middle East until they hope to completely pull us out of that region. They'll also continue to build long-range missiles, missiles capable of reaching the United States. Those are not affected by this deal, and they'll continue to build them as they've been doing. And then at some point in the near future, when the time is right, they will build a nuclear weapon. And they will do so because at that point they will know that they have become immune, that we will no longer be able to strike their nuclear program because the price of doing so will be too high. This is not just a work of imagination. It exists in the world today. It's called North Korea, where a lunatic possesses dozens of nuclear weapons and a long-range rocket that can already reach the United States. And we cannot do anything about it. An attack on North Korea today would result in an attack on Tokyo, or Seoul, or Guam, or Hawaii, or California. And so the world must now live with a lunatic in possession of nuclear weapons. And this is the goal Iran has as well, to reach a point where they become immune to any sort of credible military threat because the price of a military strike would be too high. And then they become an established nuclear weapons power. And never in the history of the world has such a regime ever possessed weapons so capable of destruction. Iran is led by a supreme leader who is a radical Shia cleric with an apocalyptic vision of the future. He is not a traditional geopolitical actor who makes decisions on the basis of borders or simply history or because of ambitions. He has an religious apocalyptic vision of the future, one that calls for triggering a conflict between the non-Muslim world and the Muslim world, one that he feels especially obligated to trigger. And he's going to possess nuclear weapons. This is the world that we are on the verge of leaving our children to inherit. And perhaps we ourselves will have to share in it. And so I want to be recorded for history's purposes, if nothing else, to say that those of us who opposed this deal understood where it would lead. And we are making a terrible mistake. And I fear that a passage of this deal will make it even harder for us to prevent it. And I hope that there is still time to change our minds. But here's the good news. Iran may have a supreme leader, but America does not. In this nation, we have a republic, and soon we will have new leaders, perhaps in this chamber, but also in the executive branch. And I pray that on their first day in office, they will reverse this deal and reimpose.
All right, so that was when he spoke against the Obama deal. Boy, it sounds like he's speaking about this one, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, Amir, a couple things come to mind immediately. And, the claim that Israel would not exist if not for the U.S. or the president flies in the face of Ezekiel 36, where God said, I'm bringing the Jews back in the land for my name's sake. Amos said, once they're in the land, they'll never be uprooted again. And then you pair that up with the fact that Daniel makes mention in chapter 4 of the outrageous claim of Nebuchadnezzar. And look at what my hand has built, the great Babylon. Mm-hmm. And this was followed immediately by madness. And then you pair that with the fact that you've got Huckabee and Rubio who do have a relationship with the Lord. And that points our minds to 1 Corinthians 2:14. The natural man, the unregenerate man, the not born again person cannot discern the things of God because they are spiritual, nor can he know them. So you've got this obvious take of Rubio. I think it's so important that regardless of who he's speaking about, what he spoke was the truth. Shia Islam has a responsibility in their minds to cause an uprising in the world, an apocalyptic scenario, which only then will allow the 12th Imam, or the Mahdi, to come back, reappear, and to bring peace to the earth. I mean, they look at it as a responsibility, and somehow what the president said was so troubling about it was previous regimes that were so murderous. And here you've got people still being executed. I believe the day he said that, there were 2 more people who were executed in Iran.
Yep.
Probably for just speaking out against the regime. And so there's nothing that's changed.
It's the same regime, Pastor Barry. It's the same.
Exactly. It makes
I mean,
no
it's
sense.
the son. They say the son is even worse than his dad, by the way, just so you know. And it's the same clerics, the same ayatollahs, so okay, the first level of tier of generals is gone. Yeah, but there's a second one, and they're as bad. It's the same IRGC. I don't understand how he distinguishes between the two. It's exactly the same people with exact same demands. And the truth of the matter is, they caused the President of the United States of America to change his mind rather than he caused them to change theirs. Because theirs is an ideology. It's not just looking at the prices of oil and saying, oh, it's too hard, it's too long, I can't go on like that. No, of course not. He did not have the strength to stand for too long. And you know what? It's interesting because it causes me to admire my prime minister that is standing in the front line for over 2.5 years. Not for 2 months, for 2.5 years. And he's still standing strong, not giving up any of our principles, any of our goals. And you know, I told you that ever since he got back from China, he's different. We talked about it quite a few times. And you know, when he was in China, you know, it was all about the Strait of Hormuz must remain open. Let's go back to and remember, he was in China after 9 years that he hasn't been there. He came to China. He had hoped to come as a victor over Iran and force China to accept new trade oversight mechanism, agreements on rare earth minerals, and also AI cooperation that would secure American leadership of the global economy. But the Chinese did not cooperate. In fact, instead, they threatened escalation and even the possibility of a wider global conflict, particularly through pressure on Taiwan. They actually told him, I know that. They told him that if you're not opening the Strait of Hormuz, we're taking over Taiwan. And they were also deeply concerned about the loss of that cheap Iranian oil supplies that the United States had disrupted. So, as is often the case between great powers, the talks did not collapse because they had to save face. Some significant deals indeed were reached, such as 200 aircrafts Boeing that were sold. But the joint statement was remarkably brief, containing only one key sentence. The Strait of Hormuz must remain open to free navigation, and Iran must not possess nuclear weapons. And then, of course, those are precisely the same principles that now define this agreement with Iran. Trump is persistent and determined to continue building what he sees as a new global order under American economic leadership. But after encountering Chinese resistance to broader agreements, he may have to settle for a simple bargain: oil in exchange for a non-nuclear Iran. And if you ask me, he will get a nuclear Iran if he allows him to enrich uranium. We all know exactly who we are dealing with. It's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking to see that. But we're both teaching Bible prophecy, and both of us teach that Iran is still going to come against Israel in the near future. So, I mean,
yeah, they are. Hey, let me encourage you out there to make sure that you're subscribed to both of our channels. That helps us get information out. Also, that you are commenting, liking, and sharing this video, because there's a lot of talk going on out there, and not all of it's biblically based. And the most important thing for us to recognize about what's happening is what Amir just said. We're not guessing. We're not speculating. We know that Iran is someday going to invade the nation of Israel, along with Russia, Turkey, Sudan, and Libya. That's what the Bible says, and that's exactly what's going to happen. And the more that you comment and like and share, the more this is going to drive the algorithm to the top of the search engines when people are searching for Iran or other things related to the topics we're discussing. So really need your help on this, because we have to fight the war on the battlefield that is now currently engaged by the world, and that's the world of social media platforms and YouTube and other things like that. So I really, really encourage you make sure you're subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing. It's a great help. Well, Amir, there's still things going on in Gaza, and maybe you can bring us up to speed as to what's happening there and what's been developing with all eyes and ears on this MOU.
Yeah. I mean, you can imagine, we're still running war on several fronts. Iran is not the only one. I mean, we have Gaza, we have Lebanon, we have Judea and Samaria, we have the Syrian front, we have the Houthis, and we have the media front as well. In Gaza, we continue to eliminate, we're doing two things. We're eliminating any threat, and surprisingly, all of those terrorists that we eliminate are also terrorists related to October 7th. I mean, we have a whole list of every person that took part of that massacre, and we'll get to each and every one of them. So we just eliminated 2 of them yesterday and a few more earlier. And we also expand our, one of the things they are angry about is the fact that the yellow line is moved further and further into their territory. And so, as the Prime Minister said, it will eventually get to 70% and maybe even more. And when it comes to Lebanon, we may have our hands tied right now behind our back because of the U.S. Decision to include Lebanon in this memorandum of understanding. But we made it very clear that A, we will defend ourselves, and any emerging danger we will eliminate. 2, we continue to move further and further inside to secure the yellow line zone. This is the yellow line zone, you see, and current operating areas you can clearly see are in blue, and the latest advances are in the light blue, as you can clearly see. So we're making more and more advances. So both in Gaza and in Lebanon, we are eliminating terrorists, and we're moving further inside to control more area in order to secure a bigger buffer between our civilians and their anti-tank missiles, drones, and maybe a danger of ground invasion. Make no mistake, the Hisbollah planned for years to invade into Israel and take over Galilee. They said it. We found the books, we found the manuals, we're finding huge caches of ammunition, rockets, missiles. It's diabolic. And all of that has to stop. So we go in, we clean, we destroy all the underground facilities and infrastructure. We destroy enemies that we find along the way. They don't like it. And the President of the United States of America is saying, well, Israel can protect itself, but it has to be more cautious. And the funniest thing is this, Pastor Barry. You know what he said yesterday? Well, I don't think Israel is doing a good job. They're killing too many people. Maybe Syria should go in and do it. It's funny because the Syrian military is consisted of Al-Qaeda and ISIS people. And you can ask the Syrians what they've been doing ever since they got into power. They butchered the Alawites and the Druze and the Christians and the Kurds. They were throwing people off rooftops. So he wants them to clean Lebanon? They're going to butcher the Kurds and the Druze and the Christians and the Shiites. I don't understand. President Trump has unexplained fascination by several leaders in our area. I don't know. I think we may have prepared it. I'm talking about the Turkish president. He admires him. I'm talking about the Syrian president. He admires him. I'm talking about the Qatari emir. He admires him. I'm talking about the Pakistani leadership and chief of staff. He admires them. The Saudis and the Egyptians. He loves those dictators. He loves those butchers. And whatever they do is okay, is fine. You know, America is not even condemning. This administration is not even. You know, Bernard-Henri Lévy, a French philosopher, he actually posted something very serious. I didn't know if I want to post, if I don't want to show it, but if we have it, maybe we can put it on the screen. Look what he said. He says, Trump abandoned the Kurds, the Afghans, the Ukrainians, the Iranians, and today with the MOU, he's abandoning the Israelis and their Arab allies. So, and all of that, by the way, he refers to, most of what he said, he refers to the things in Syria, because he was so obsessed with this new Syrian leader. This America had a bounty over his head for millions of dollars. It's a leader of ISIS, and now he can do a better job than Israel. Trump, I don't understand. You know, Trump goes against everything he himself wrote. You know, in his own book of The Art of the Deal from 1987, he wrote, the worst thing you can possibly do, we can put it on the screen if you can, the worst thing you can possibly do in a deal is seem desperate to make it. That makes the other guy smell blood, and then you're dead. Not only that, he's the one who said in 2020, Iran never won a war but never lost a negotiation. So what did the president do? Stop the war and move to negotiation. Stop where he was winning and move to where they're winning. And now we see the results. Pastor Barry, it's very sad. People in Israel are very sad. You know why we're so sad? Because we love him. Because we think he was a great friend of Israel. Because we cherish what he did in Gaza with the hostages and all of that. We admired how he knew what is right and what is wrong, who is the bad and who is the good, who is his ally, who is his foe. And suddenly this moral clarity is thrown under the bus. It's gone, and now he's flirting with all of these dictators. He's flirting with all of these jihadists. Now he's... Who has bewitched him? What happened? What is going on? Is there something they have on him? I don't know. You know how long I try. Now again, as a teacher of Bible prophecy, I know that Iran is going to come against us, but it doesn't register in my mind. It doesn't register in my mind that the same person who up until just about 4 weeks ago said a whole civilization will be destroyed. He was about to remove everything that the IRGC ever had. And now he's throwing so many compliments on them. And now he's so eager to run and have a deal with them. And now he's receiving billions from Qatar and all. It's so bizarre. It's so disheartening. It's so sad. And the conservatives in America are you know, I believe that they're very sad. I believe that because he was their hero. I mean, I admired him, and I'm not even American. You can imagine how 90 million Iranians are now so disappointed. Not to mention the Israelis, and not to mention all the moderate Arabs around. You know, Amjad Taha, a big influencer in the UAE, he said, in fact, I even posted it today. He said the following thing. He said, out of 8.3 billion people on earth, only 2 seem to trust Iran, Trump and J.D. Vance. And that's a Middle Eastern person who lives in the UAE. And that's what most moderate Arab countries in our area think. So, very sad, very, very sad.
Yeah, Amir, when this whole thing started, we had many discussions. I think many people were wondering if there is a regime change and Reza Pahlavi comes back in and runs the country and becomes more friendly with Iran, things return to a pre-1979 state, that's going to kind of hit the pause button, at least in our thinking, regarding the advancement of the proximity we have to the beginning of the Ezekiel war scenario. And now we've got just this complete reversal where, regime change is not going to happen. As Trump said, it never was the goal. He can work with this particular group because they haven't been radicalized and all these other things. But it just underscores the importance for us to recognize that what the Bible says is true. It's all going to go down. It's all going to happen exactly as was foretold. And we've got some other components that are happening, Amir, regarding the convergence of events necessary for the things that are written in Revelation and elsewhere to come to pass, including AI-generated imagery and videos and things of that nature. And one of the articles I think that's worth mentioning is that, political deep fakes are getting weirder and harder to spot, and campaigns today, as we move near the midterms, are employing artificial intelligence to generate their campaign ads. And there was recently a video that portrayed Senate candidate from Texas, James Tallarico, singing a rendition of My Favorite Things, praising transgender children. It was a complete AI-generated video and other things along that nature. But, there was a comment made by Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan from Minnesota. She said, it feels creepy to see an image of you on a screen that looks like you, but isn't you at all. And she was depicted as smiling and sticking out her hand while accepting campaign contributions from big companies. And I think this is important, Amir, because the reality is there is going to happen, I guess, the ultimate fake when the Antichrist has an image created of him and the whole world goes after the beast. Now, this requires a culture that is device-oriented, that will watch AI videos and accept them as reality because they can't tell the difference. And it's just pretty amazing to see that this has moved in a relatively short amount of time into the mainstream, and now has had or will have potential impacts on the midterm elections here in the United States. Very, very curious to watch people buy into
There's a whole YouTube channel with videos of me, and it's not me. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's some of you and me too.
Yes, I know. And so I've already seen it firsthand. But yeah, you're right. Deception.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Is so rampant right now, and it's a sign of the end, a sign of Satan getting out of control, because that's his mode of operation, basically. I mean, deception.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very sad.
And we've got another issue going on here in especially SoCal. I think it's interestingly arrived already. There's talk of a Godzilla El Nino, or a super El Nino, that could cause trillions of dollars in damage. Now, I'm not saying that this is a contributing factor to the ride of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, but it is possible, if we are that close to the removal of the church and the onset of the tribulation, and the rider in Revelation 6:2 on the white horse that comes with that covenant in his hand with Israel to make this peace agreement for some 7 years, we do know that during that particular time, food prices are going to rise to the degree that it costs a whole day's pay for basically a loaf of bread or a quart of wheat. And you've got this potential impact, and we're already seeing it here in Southern California. It's kind of interesting to see, how anybody that's following stories about what's been going on out here in the Pacific. We've had massive waves, and we've actually had the loss of life from people who were dragged out into the sea. One poor little 5-year-old girl was sucked out into the ocean, and her body was just found a couple of days ago. And it's amazing to consider that, I think one of the things that has long been one of the interpretations of Revelation is that, there's these, nuclear exchanges and things of that nature. But God fights in a different way. And Zechariah makes it very clear that God will fight as he fights in the day of battle. And God uses a different weapons cache than humanity. He doesn't need any nukes. He doesn't need human armies. He fights with asteroids and comets and weather anomalies and events like that. And I thought, it's just curious to see, one, we've got a culture that is used to looking at images and believing that they are true. Now we've got something that could have an economic impact around the world to the tune of trillions of dollars, driving food prices through the roof, which is consistent with what happens in the tribulation period. And then you've got, a family-owned bakery that's being targeted for celebrating the nuclear family month, the time that they've kind of created themselves. And they're being targeted by the alphabet mob, the LGBTQ crowd, for commemorating the fact that God created man and woman and brought them together for the purpose of procreation. And this bakery began celebrating what they call Nuclear Family Month. But Joshua Streblow, the bakery's owner, told the Christian Post that the month-long promotion celebrating the beauty of God's design and his declared word with respect to these designs has brought the bakery under attack. And again, I think just looking at what's coming in the tribulation, you've got a world that is willing to support the execution of anyone who does not take the mark of the beast or will not fall in line with the global agenda that's going to take place there. And again, Amir, I think we're seeing so many elements of things necessary to already be present in the thinking of the world that are happening right now that tell us we need to look up our redemption is nigh.
Amen. 2.5 years ago, you wrote a book, The Time of the Signs, if I'm not mistaken. And that book, details so much of the times in which we live right now and all the signs that we see everywhere, all around. The time of the signs. תשימו את זה בבקשה. So take a look at for people who may have not heard about your book, I want to put that, יש לכם את זה? The Time of the Signs, הספר שלו, אתם לא מקשיבים לי. יפה, this is it, The Time of the Signs. If you want to get a hold of Barry's book, this is it. That's the QR code. It's not a new one, but it's a great one, and it'll be great. And by the way, speaking of books, the Elijah Mandate is coming out soon, and I'm telling you, everything I see today all around me reminds me of what he saw in his lifetime, and that's very, very important message that Elijah received from the Lord. And I really pray and hope that every one of you will get a hold of this one, and not only for you, for your friends and family, and for your unbelieving relatives as well. Pastor Barry and I will be gone right in the beginning of July on board the Alaska cruise, but we do have space on the cruise to the Norwegian fjords still in October, early September, October, late September, early October.
Early October.
Late September, early October, yes. And the two of us, for the first time, will teach the entire book of Ezekiel as we are exploring Ezekiel, my book, as the way to walk through that entire book of the Bible. So we invite you, of course. Now, if you guys love what we do at Behold Israel, we definitely could use your help, as always. And so if you want to help us, don't fall into the trap of giving it to some people who beg online, pretending to be me on some social media platforms. The only way to do it is through our website, and you can use this QR code. Go to beholdisrael.org, and in that section you can find many different ways to give to support this ministry. Pastor Barry, it's time to end our, I think, important, super important Middle and Beyond. Yeah. I really hope people are going to echo that as much as possible. But let's do it, as always, with the Aharonic blessing.
Amen.
יברכך אדוני וישמרך, יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך, יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך Shalom.
The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance toward you and give you his peace. We pray this blessing in the name of the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, Yeshua, Jesus the Christ, the Son of the living God. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, and shalom from Galilee and from California. Share this with as many as you can. We love you, and we're going to see you again next week for Q&A on Monday and for our Mideast and Beyond on Wednesday. Thank you. God bless you, and shalom.